differently shaped. Not to fear, this technique works just as well on a two-piece sleeve as it does on a one-piece sleeve. I'm going to stack the two pattern pieces together, the upper and under sleeve, as if they were sewn, meeting the stitching lines. And I've already marked a horizontal line starting at the underarm of the undersleeve and marking it across the upper sleeve. We need to know where the increase mark should be on either side of the upper sleeve. And I'd like to show you how to do that now. I already have my pattern traced, and I'll just work with only the upper sleeve. And you might get the idea that this is very simple, and that is to pivot to meet the increase mark. Trace the pattern into the increase mark or the underarm area, and at home you can trace a little straighter, and then pivot from the underarm to the hem, gradually tapering down to nothing. After repeating it on the other side, that's how that upper sleeve would be changed. Once you've mastered your fitting formula on a basic or classic style, you can apply those same techniques to more stylized patterns. For example, we're going to start with the raglan style. This is a rather casual look of a pattern that has raglan styling, but the seam of the sleeve angles from the neckline to the underarm at a bias. To get an increase at the bust line or change the sleeve requires a little bit different type of configuration. Again, following many of the same pivot ideas that I detailed earlier. If you have in the past increased your sleeve, let's say by the 3/4 of an inch that I just showed you in a basic sleeve, you could apply those same 3/4 of an inch amounts on a raglan sleeve. Now, whenever I see a raglan sleeve, I think of a bat wing. It just really has an unusual shape. This is 1/2 of the sleeve. This is the center back, and this is where the increase would be in the underarm area. To measure out your increase, measure the increase from the cutting line and place a mark or hash on the paper. Now, to do the pivoting, we don't have a shoulder seam. As you can see, we just have this long angle of the line. The pin is placed at the intersection of the seam for the neckline and the raglan seam. And this is just to increase the sleeve. If you had to do that, just pivot the pattern so that the pattern cutting line meets the increase mark. What we're doing is getting more width in the sleeve or the underarm area. I have to be honest, sometimes on a raglan sleeve it's rather loosely fit, so you don't have to do this too often. But if the garment had a closer stylized fit, this is how you would accomplish it. Then the pin is placed at the underarm. It's really not the underarm, but the side seam, and we'll pivot the pattern back to meet the tracing at the sleeve. Now again, this is only what you would accomplish if you had to increase the sleeve on a basic style pattern. And here you can see that the width has been achieved through the pattern, giving you extra fullness. The next step is to look at the bodice. Now, perhaps if you had to increase the bust line on a basic dress, then you may want to apply that same technique to the raglan sleeve. Just because you increase the sleeve doesn't mean you have to increase the bust line or vice versa. It just happens to be the way I'm showing it to you today. This is pretty similar to what I just went over. But again, the increase mark would be measured out from the underarm area. These patterns look so comparable that it's obvious where the changes would go. At the stitching line, which is the neckline and the raglan sleeve, is where the pin is placed. And the pattern then again is angled to meet that increase mark. This will give you the width. Frankly, I've done more alterations on raglan to increase the bust line than the sleeve, but I just wanted to show you that once you know what you need to add, you can simply do that to almost any style using these simple ideas. And then angle this down to nothing at the waist area. And the back or front would look very comparable to the way the sleeve is altered. So that's the simple raglan style. Very comfortable style to wear. You can add many inches in that area. And again, generally, you may have in a raglan style enough style ease in it that you don't have to do these. But this is just if it's a little closer fit. This style that we're showing on this card illustrates a dolman or perhaps a cap sleeve would be a version of this, where the bodice and sleeve are cut in one piece, one continuous piece. This can be a trick to fit if you don't know the right way to go about it. If you are altering it for